Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound Podcast quick picks video for UFC 324. Paddy Pimblett taking on Justin Gaethje in the main event. And as always, if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. If you're short on time this week, if the week is getting you down, this video is for you. A full card breakdown, confident level traffic light system at the bottom. 15 minutes or less. Let's dive right in, quick fire style. And kicking things off in the early prelim opener, we've got Ty Miller taking on Adam Fugit. Medium level confidence here for Ty Miller making his UFC debut. I like the boxing from this kid coming up on the Dana White's Contender Series. And we've seen with Adam Fugit in the past, he's very linear in his striking. He will mix in takedowns. But in my opinion, 37 years old, he is chinny. And his defensive boxing is definitely suspect. I definitely think that Ty Miller can capitalize here. Long extended combination could definitely catch Fugit on the feet. And I don't like the head movement out of Fugit. I think Ty Miller's going to be able to defend the takedowns, ultimately finding a second round TKO victory here on the feet. Medium level confidence here for Ty Miller in his UFC debut. And next up, we have Ricky Turcios taking on Cameron Smotherman. And this fight's got greasy split decision written all over it. I am going to side with Smotherman. He tends to have low volume, but he lacks the ability to be able to finish his opponents, which is why I think this one goes to the judges' scorecards. We've seen with Ricky Turcios, he can push a pace. He does use cardio as a weapon. He does put up a lot of volume. He is not known for his punching power, and he's not known to be able to get the fight to the ground where he wants it. If the fight does hit the mat, he does do a good job of scrambling and getting back on top, but I think this one plays out on the feet. Smotherman does a good job here of keeping this one on the feet, lands the bigger shots, and ultimately wins a split decision. However, not confident here. That's why we've got the red light. I wouldn't touch this one from a barge pole, from a betting perspective. I do think that Turcios could definitely pull off the upset here due to a lack of volume from Cameron Smotherman, but I am going to lean in his direction as the better athlete, along with the guy that has the more power in the hands. And next up, we've got Michael Johnson taking on Alexander Hernandez. And I like Hernandez in this matchup. He's shown improvements from fight to fight. 4-fight win streak, getting a lot of finishes along the road. He's mixing in takedowns. His cardio looks much better, which was a kryptonite of his in the past. And we've seen with Michael Johnson that although he has had good performances against Daniel Zellhuber, he did look good in that fight. Always fast, always rangy, always light on his feet. His boxing is good. His takedown defense is good. I do think Hernandez here is the better fighter. Much younger in his prime, and I think Hernandez is going to be able to get this one done either by a late TKO or a unanimous decision victory here. Medium level confidence in Hernandez this week to take on the UFC veteran in Johnson and ultimately get the victory. And next up, we've got Rose Namajunas taking on Natalia Silva. Give me Natalia Silva. I'm not that impressed with Namajunas at this point in her career. I do think that Silva is the up-and-coming new generation here inside the UFC. Green light, confident, let it fly this week. Tell your uncle, tell your auntie that Silva's going to win. I believe in her this week. I think she's going to be dancing around on the outside. I think her striking is going to be too much. She's too athletic for Rose Namajunas. She's going to be able to pick and prod at her when she wants and ultimately seal rounds with takedowns. Give me Natalia Silva here to get this one done. Rose Namajunas, former champion, not taking anything away from her, very skilled, could definitely pull off an upset here, but I do think that Natalia Silva is a rightfully big favorite here. The new and up-and-coming Natalia Silva to get it done. Green level confidence here, very confident in her this week. And next up, we've got Josh Hockett taking on Denzel Freeman. Give me Josh Hockett here. He's a guy that definitely has power in the hands. Obviously, cutting weight for 265 is not a problem for him. Walks around that 230, 240 mark. Very fast hands, good boxing, and definitely is able to finish a fight. Denzel Freeman is a guy that has had the higher level experience, especially over in the PFL. He is a guy that likes to mix in wrestling. He has good wrestling pedigree. However, in his UFC debut, we saw him really have a pitter-patter sparring match with a Muay Thai style striking base. I think if he comes in here and doesn't wrestle, he's going to get knocked out by Hockett. He's going to be the much faster guy, the much more athletic guy, and I do think that Freeman here is going to be out of his depths on the feet. He might panic shoot if Hockett does catch him on the feet, but I think if he does find the chin, he is going to put Freeman out here. If Freeman does mix in the wrestling, it could get, dicey. It definitely could be, kind of a back and forth heavyweight exchange where both guys have moments. Hockett gets a little bit tired from the wrestling, but I do think that Hockett puts him out early here. Freeman didn't impress me in his UFC debut. The older guy, more experience, but I do think that Hockett's going to find the knockout. And next up, we have Alex Perez, taking on Charles Inner G Johnson. And I'm going to lean to Perez here. I think he looked good in his last fight, even though he did get submitted. I do think that Asu Almabayev is definitely a guy that's up and coming in the rankings. Charles Johnson can be a little bit inconsistent at times. He is tall, rangy for the division, and he does, kind of pull off the upset every now and again. But I think that this could be one of his stinkers, one of his letdown performances here. Perez fighting for his job, but he has lost only to the best of the best. So I do like Alex Perez here, only in a slight lean. I do think that Perez has fought the who's who, whereas Charles Johnson has not necessarily fought the higher level of competition other than Joshua Van in that fluke kind of knockout that he had there. Tall and rangy guy, but I think Perez is going to be able to get on the inside, mix in grappling, and use that aggressiveness to his advantage. I'm not confident in Perez, however. I do think that Charles Johnson could definitely pull this one off, but give me Alex Perez in a slight lean. I just have a feeling he's going to be able to get this one done and keep his UFC contract alive. And next up, we've got Atemba Gutierrez taking on Andre Puliev. Give me Gutierrez, man. This guy's technical, this guy's powerful, this guy's athletic, and Puliev has that tall man defense, leaves his chin up in the air, and I think that's going to be all she wrote. Work it to the body, go upstairs here, and you'll find the first round knockout. Don't really need to overthink this one. Shortest breakdown on the card, Gutierrez by knockout. He's composed, he's got good takedown defense, and I think this is going to be one-way traffic. Give me Gutierrez by first round knockout. And next up, we've got Umar Nurmagomedov taking on Davidson Figueiredo. And this line is crazy. I can't believe that Nurmagomedov is this big of a favorite. It does make sense. However, I'm surprised when you look at Figueiredo, former champion, back and forth with Moreno in that trilogy fight, trilogy matchup with Brandon Moreno, He's a guy that can definitely get it done. But obviously here against Umar, I think he's going to be out of his depth, especially in the wrestling. We saw Sandhagen was able to take him down whenever he wanted to. I think Nurmagomedov's going to be able to do the same, wear on him, use ground and pound, and just really take him into deep waters with the grappling. We see that from the Dagestanis. I expect it to be pretty much rinse and repeat here until he's able to either get a finish late or win a unanimous decision with top control. Davidson Figueiredo is obviously always live for a knockout. Former champion, he's definitely live, but I do think that Nurmagomedov gets this one done here with the grappling. And next up, we got Nikita Krylov taking on Modestas Bukauskas, and I think Krylov gets this one done. We see a more measured approach here at 205 for Krylov. Both guys can obviously put people out at 205. However, I do think that Krylov here is going to know that he's obviously lost to back-to-back fights from being overzealous. Modestas Bukauskas is on a 4-fight win streak against guys with losing records or that are retiring. I do think that this is a big step up in competition for Bukauskas, and I do think that Krylov's going to be able to get it done. The more natural finisher on the feet or on the ground, that Kyokushin karate style, I think it's definitely something to be wary of, especially with those nice high kicks. And I think if we see a more measured approach here from Krylov, he's going to be able to find the finish. I explained in my Dog of the Week this week that I do think that Bukauskas is a guy that leaves openings for his opponents, and I think that Krylov can definitely capitalize on one of those openings, providing he doesn't get too zealous early in the first round. Give me Nikita Krylov, medium level confidence to get it done this week, along with being the Dog of the Week. And next up, we got Arnold Allen taking on Gene Silva. And I'm only going to lean to Gene Silva here. Obviously, coming off that knockout loss, I expect him to bounce back from that Diego Lopez elbow. But we've seen with Arnold Allen, long layoff due to a shoulder injury. We'll see what his cardio looks like. We'll see if there's any ring rust. Gene Silva, always a fan favorite, always a guy that gets in there and gives you what you pay for. But I do think that Arnold Allen is definitely a test. This is not a walk in the park by any means. Arnold Allen can mix in the grappling. I think that he's definitely viable in the striking. He will walk you down. But I do think that Silva is a guy that looks to counter, and I think that's going to pay in his advantage here to be able to find some sort of knockout, or at least, have the moments to be able to win unanimous rounds with the bigger moments on the feet. I think Silva's going to look to counter as Allen walks into shots. I do think that Silva is definitely a little bit overrated in this matchup. I think that Allen should not be a 2-1 underdog. However, I think that Silva's going to be able to pull it out with the striking, and ultimately Allen's ring rust is going to be too much for him. So give me Gene Silva in a slight lean. And next up, we've got Waldo Cortez Acosta here taking on Derek Lewis. And we see Salsa Boy. We know what he's about. He comes in, he's knocking people out. The boxing style is on display. And realistically, he taps the low kick and he uses his boxing, not a whole lot of grappling. And we know what Derek Lewis wants to do. He wants to knock people out, but he's not the more technical striker in this matchup. I think he's going to be swinging at air while Costa's moving around on the outside, jabbing, poking, prodding. And ultimately, it's going to be too much here for Derek Lewis. I think Waldo Cortez Acosta gets this one done with the boxing, staying safe, and ultimately finds a knockout here on Derek Lewis. Unfortunate for Derek Lewis, always a fan favorite. I think Waldo Cortez Acosta is much better with the hands here. So give me Waldo Cortez Acosta. Green light. Let him fly. Tell your uncle. Tell your auntie. Confident pick this week. And that's bringing us to the new co-main event here of Sugar Sean O'Malley taking on Song Yong Song, however you want to name it. Give me Sugar Sean O'Malley to get back in the win column here after back-to-back losses, Monferrat, Duralishvili. I think he's going to get this one done. He's much more elusive than Song Yadong. I think his takedown defense is going to hold up. I think Song is very linear. He wants to stay crisp. He wants to stay tight, but he walks in on a straight line. I think Sean O'Malley is going to be far too elusive, throwing different weapons, setting traps here, and ultimately winning a unanimous decision victory with his striking here. Medium level confidence for Sugar Sean O'Malley to get back in the win column here against Song Yadong in the co-main event of UFC 324. And that brings us to the main event here for UFC 324. And if you're enjoying the content, rapid fire style, hit that like and subscribe button. And you know who we're going with. We're going with the Scouser, Paddy the Baddy Pimblett here. Medium level confidence. I think he's going to be able to get this one done. From fight to fight, we see Paddy Pimblett improving. We see him in better shape. We're just engaging. We see him in wars. We see him taking a lot of damage. He has got good takedown defense. He's got good wrestling. And I do think he's got the better hands in this matchup. But I think Paddy can frustrate him on the outside with the kicks, very much like he did against Bobby Green. I think he's going to have opportunistic takedowns. And I think once Paddy gets in a dominant position, he's going to be able to really wear on just engaging with the wrestling, with the ground and pound, and ultimately maybe get a late finish here against a guy in 38-year-old Justin Gagey who's taken a lot of damage over the course of his career. And if you're enjoying the content, as I always say, new to the channel, short notice, this one's for you. Hope you guys are having a good week. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.